We're so excited that you're with us today. It's going to be an amazing time together. I know Tim Nugent, our creative arts pastor, is again who normally is the host. He's still not feeling great. He's still kind of under the weather. So please be praying for Tim. Miss him. I'm hoping to see him on Sunday. Hopefully he'll be there. It's been kind of weird. This whole week has been weird around the office, right?
Yeah, it has.
Because Robbie's back, but he's quarantined because they came back from India, and so they had to spend a whole week at home doing nothing. And then he thought he had COVID, but didn't have COVID. And then Tim's been sick. And then let's see, gosh, it's just weird, man. This whole week is just totally weird. Like, I think one day Pam was the only one in the office because I was in a meeting and you were out. And so, I mean, it's nutso. So anyway, but we're here live for our lunch break. And again, we're glad that you joined us. Today, my guest is John Diaz. And so he's a little nervous today. So just kind of, just a little bit. Like, he's got to be an adult for a sec. But this is totally laid back, John. So it's okay, piece of cake, take a deep breath. We're going to ask you some goofy questions, talk to you about student ministry, talk to you about 25 Days of Hope, all that good fun stuff. So first and foremost, I think everybody wants to know, what in the world is a student pastor? Like, what is that? Like, and what qualifies as a student? What's a student pastor? Like, kind of tell us about that.
All right. So student pastor is basically just pastor who is specifically our job is to guide and be there for the students, and we're focusing primarily on, here at Northwest, middle school and high school students, but our goal is to eventually go into, college age students as well, and helping them, on whatever it takes to walk, the walk that we're called to walk. And
so I'm taking some classes in college. I'm working on another master's degree. Would I qualify for student ministry? Because I'm old? Is that the problem? Like, I'm too old, John? What are you saying? Like, it's okay?
No, not necessarily. I mean, it's a little different in that sense. We primarily focus, on middle school and high school, but our goal in the future is to have more conversations and help those people out as well. So,
dude, you can say I'm old, man. It's okay. I got so much gray in my beard right now. It's driving me nuts.
I don't know if I can say that. Here, maybe.
You'll say it behind my back. Exactly. You won't say it live because then it's out there for everybody to see.
Yeah.
And then, okay, cool. All right, so big part of why we're doing this lunch break is we want to talk about 25 Days of Hope. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit more about, you've done a couple 25 Days of Hope things, and then you've got a coming up, right? With 25 Days of Hope.
Yep.
So tell us what was it like for those 2 cards that you passed out in those 25 days? What was that like? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Terrifying. I thought I totally got this. I was like, man, I got this. And then if you watched my first video, was
that the one you're in the chair and you're all like pensive?
Yes,
and you're like,
I was like,
deep thoughts with John Diaz.
I was like, what did I do? I tried, in the first video I explained, I tried to give a card to somebody who came to help me out in my house, and I didn't really treat him as well as I had hoped, because I woke up at my home with no air conditioning, no heat, and it was just bad. And I tried to give him hope, and he turned me down. So I was like, oh my gosh. And then I just ended up overthinking it too much. And at the end of the day, the whole experience, reminded me that, this is God's job. We get to be a part of what He's already doing, and that is the coolest part. And so, it was terrifying, but also, at the end of the day, it just reminded me, like, God is big. And, like, even if we think we're messing up, we're not. Like, He's got it. We just get to be a part of that story.
That's cool.
So,
good. Good thought. That's good stuff. Okay, so now tell us, what's this project that you're doing for students?
Yes. So our project is, we're kind of going back to something we did last year as well. Our students have been moved a lot by just the amount of homeless people in our area, and just they just have a great heart for them, and so their desire is to bless them in some way. So we're going to be partnering, and we did this a little bit last year. We're going to be doing it again. We're partnering with Good Neighbor, which is a homeless shelter in Cartersville, and we're going to be we've actually ordered 96 backpacks.
Cool.
Yeah, a ton of 96 gloves. We got a bunch of snacks, and we're just gonna fill up these backpacks with a bunch of stuff to bless the homeless in our community with, and we're really pumped and excited for that.
That's really cool. So how will that work then? Will the kids will pack the bags, or the homeless people? What is it? What I don't.
So next Tuesday we are actually going to be taking that time. We normally do our varsity night, which we normally do small group and stuff like that. But we're going to take that time to write letters and prayers, pray over the backpacks, and then stuff the backpacks together. And then that Wednesday morning, the 23rd, we're going to go out. I'll be going out, and maybe some sponsors to go take the backpacks to that homeless shelter. So.
That's so cool. I love that. I think that's really cool. I know my daughter's excited about it. She's in 7th grade, and so she's pumped about that. Okay, so you used a term that I want to talk about a little bit.
Sure.
You used the word varsity.
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, that's not the varsity. What do you have? What do you have? Like that, right? That's not what tell us a little bit more about that. Like what programs? Like I know varsity is a program, right? So kind of dig in a bit.
Okay, cool. So we kind of we tailor our teaching according to who we're teaching. Middle school is different than high school, and so on and so forth. So so our whole the student center that we've actually built, which has been awesome. That whole thing is tailored for any kind of students. So varsity is what we call primarily our high school students. And so we do for middle school, we have a class for them that's kind of similar to the varsity class, but it's different. And basically, middle school we meet in the mornings on Sunday mornings. And we don't have a fancy name for them yet. That might change in the future.
Junior varsity?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. There's something about like junior is just makes you feel like, hey, junior. Yeah, exactly. I'm not there yet, and no, I don't. So yeah. But point is, so they do something in the mornings, basically kind of a small group time, and diving into their kind of questions, whatever they're struggling with. And then varsity is what we call, again, just the high school, and we have varsity nights, which are Tuesday nights meetings. And really the whole deal, the whole concept of that is just giving them a time to dive into their doubts, dive into whatever they're struggling with, and answer some of their questions, and also let them know what like real life small group time looks like, preparing them for what small groups will be like outside of youth group. So
very cool.
Basically it.
All right, so I'm curious, and this is maybe come as partially because I'm a parent, and we're kind of veering off the 25 Days of Hope. I know that the purpose is 25 Days of Hope. So you can 25dh.online. You can go. You can sign up. You can participate. There's still time to do that. Still part. John's got a project. My group next week we're going to hopefully interview my wife, who's spearheading a project to help with law enforcement, to encourage some guys and gals in law enforcement, because it's a pretty tough industry to be in right now, for a whole host of reasons. The list is long, but we're going to do some really cool stuff for them. We'll talk about that, and so all that kind of stuff. But I kind of, I want to dig into student ministry a little bit more. I want to dig into student culture a little bit more, and I figure you're the subject matter expert, so you're the guy to ping about all this kind of stuff like that. Okay, so. What do you see as the number one challenge for students right now, like middle school, high school kids? What is the biggest issue? I remember what it was when I was in school, and I'm a dinosaur. I'm 46, so like the stuff that was a big deal for me. It's probably not even on the radar for kids today. So like for you, in your experience now, and you're a lot younger than I am, so you're closer to that. What if you could put it down to one thing? What's the big deal? What's the hard thing?
For me, it's just relationships. Relationships in general. That term, relationships. I think this thing right here makes it so much more difficult than I wish it was. But even without this, even without our phones and technology, relationships are hard.
Yeah.
Totally. And when I think of relationship, I think of relationships with yourself. Like how you view yourself and the way you treat yourself and the way you think about yourself, but then relationships with others and relationship primarily with God. And so that term, like just relationships, what that looks like and that value, I think that's the primary thing. There's a lot of confusion and a lot of difficulty over that. And I think that's the main thing that I focus on. So.
Yeah. Very cool. I know. Well, I mean, I think that's probably true for all of us. That relationships are probably some of the biggest challenges that we have in life. Whether that's work relationship or marriage relationship, if you're married, or family relationship, all that kind of stuff. But it's interesting that you talk about those kinds of relationships, just person to person. But then there's also the self relationship and the God relationship thing. Okay, so for students, what would you say is the number one spiritual question kids are asking?
Who am I? Identity. Yeah, okay. I think that is the primary thing. Who am I? Because that's tied to your value. If you don't know who you are, you don't know how much, you don't know your worth. And that's the thing. I think that's the primary question that people are asking, that our students are asking.
Yeah. So I guess, how does that play out? Okay, so they're asking this question of, who am I? What's my identity? How do you see that play out in student culture? That wrestle and that struggle and that challenge.
Who they go to get that answer determines everything else. And so if they're coming to youth group because they want to receive that answer from us, that'll determine everything else. But if they're coming to youth group because my parent just kind of got me here, or my best friend got me here, then they're going somewhere else to get that, try and find that identity. And that will domino, and that will determine everything else. Because if somebody else is telling you who you are, then that always changes. It's really determined by who is saying that about you, and so that's, I hope that kind of answers your question.
That's it. So how do you help kids find who they really are in Christ? What do you do for that?
So the first thing I do is let them know that they're asking that question. That's my first step, is to show them this is a question that you're asking and you're not realizing it. And I do that by kind of diving into their other issues.
So you think other questions my sexuality or dating relationship, all that kind of stuff. It's all an outgrowth of that identity question.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's really it. And as well as what their interest is. Their interest can really demonstrate how much they value themselves, as well as what they think about themselves. Mm-hmm. It's all tied together to their identity, because our culture kind of has used it to label our identity, and so.
Sure.
So yeah.
Okay, so you first you get them to see that that's really the question they're asking, with all this other stuff and all the, the hot button issues and all this. It really is a question of identity. Then what? And
then depending on what they've tied their identity to, that will determine the course of how I kind of guide them. And that, you do that by prayer, you do that by those kind of things, and then I always tie in the sponsors with, because every sponsor, we're blessed with so many amazing sponsors, just like us, everybody's different, and so we've all struggled with different things, and a lot of our sponsors can tie into those areas, and so I usually try to bring along a sponsor who's struggled with that in the past and help them with that area. That's basically it. So.
What's a sponsor? What does a sponsor do? What's that job?
Great question. So a sponsor is an amazing, fantastic person who's God has brought into our ministry area, who is determined and has a passion for students. Wanting to do basically somewhat of what I'm doing, wanting to guide them in one way or another, and demonstrate what the life that God has called us to live looks like.
Who's the best sponsor?
Oh, I can't answer that.
I'm just kidding. You don't have to. Don't answer that question. I want a name. Who's the best? Who's your favorite? Who's
I don't even know. Goodness, man. All these memories, all these.
So if you're a sponsor and you're watching this, John did not pick you. I'm just saying. He just wouldn't name your name. I'm sorry. I don't know.
He said that. I didn't say it.
Awesome. So if, let's say somebody's watching and they're thinking about it, maybe God's laying something on their heart, it's moving towards it. Okay, it's 2021, maybe I'm ready for a new ministry. Maybe they want to work in student ministry. Mm-hmm. So what's that journey like? What's the next step? How do they get hooked up with you? Do they have to be, young and have a cool car and like I mean like what are you looking for? Like how do you do like I think people want to know like what's that whole process like because it's you know, you're kind of you live back in our student center most of the time. Like, if you haven't seen our new student center, we used to call it the fellowship hall. It's now called the student center. I think we need like a swear jar kind of concept where anybody that calls it the fellowship hall, they have to give the student ministry $1 or something. Because I still do. I catch myself. Back in the fellowship hall. Yeah, I got to take the sign off the building. Like it's on the. Yeah, we got to do that. So you live back there, so people don't get to see you all that. And I know there's those questions of okay, well. What if I want to work with teenagers? Like I used to do that in my old church, whatever. Like, kind of walk us through that process. What does that look like? What are you looking for? I mean, you kind of dig into there.
Well, first of all, I mean, you know, I always start by just having a conversation. You know, trying to figure out, you know, what, you know, is why are you interested in? You know, what has kind of sparked that interest? You know, because again, that will determine kind of where you fit in the whole area, you know, and so, and then, you know, kind of go on from there, how much do you want to get involved, that kind of stuff, you know, what your skills are, you know, we have a need for almost anything and everything, you know, because we're building up our worship team now, so we definitely need help with that. We need help with you know, meals and stuff like that, you know. So basically it all starts with a conversation, and then from that conversation that kind of branches out, and you know, depending on your interest level, that'll determine everything else, you know. And then the only requirement really from the start is just that you pass a background check. You know, we do that from the start, but then after that, you know, conversation depends on what you want to get involved in specifically.
Very cool. So okay. If I can't sing, can I still be on the worship team?
No. I mean, it depends on your. It depends on your interest level.
Rephrase that.
Yes, we might have to put you in a specific spot. You know,
and not turn the microphone on.
Yes, exactly. Well, you said, can you be on a worship team? You didn't say, can I sing on the worship team? It's different.
So it's a big fundamental difference there.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, but yeah, we always, you know, if God has placed it on your heart to want to help out in one way, well, I believe that there's a place for you, and we find that place. And so
very cool. Oh, that's awesome. All right, so I kind of want to dig into you a little bit. I want people to kind of get to know you a little bit. That's part of what this whole lunch break is, kind of this behind the scenes look at life and ministry and some of our leaders and staff too. Yeah. So that's part of it as well. Why student ministry? Like why do you do what you do? I'm curious.
There's just a connection there. There's just this love, and it just does something in me that nothing else does. You know, there's just this passion. A student walks through the door and I explode. I just do. And because as soon as they walk through the door, in that I know, you know, like just everything that God can do in that person's life, and I want to be a part of that. Yeah. And so it does something in me that nothing else does, you know, cool. and I just get drawn, you know, to the desire of doing whatever that I can do to help this person get closer to God, and that's what it is, you know. So
okay, all right. So I know you get asked this a lot because I used to do student ministry for 12 years before I started preaching. What do you do all day? Like, because this is like a real job. You actually get paid for this, right? Like, it's a legit, like, full-time job and everything, right? And so what do you do all day?
Sometimes I think I know exactly what I'm going to do, and then I wake up and I realize I've been sleeping. So, like, every day is drastically different. But for the most part, you know, it's all, you know, designed. You know, I'm trying. I do the best that I can to reach out to students, communicate with them, connect with them, figure out, you know, what's going on in their life and how can I help them continue on their walk. You know, prepare for Sunday. Obviously, you know, I do teach. You know, I teach in the mornings, and I help those who teach. I teach in the evenings primarily, and then I help those who teach in the mornings. And then prepare for Tuesday night. Help. You know, I have a sponsor who leads that. You know, prepare them. You know, we do small group times. I meet with the students throughout the week consistently, you know, and then I prep for what the rest of the year looks like. You know, I set up goals, all sorts of stuff. You know, some days I walk into the office and there's a goat that got left out, and I gotta go catch the goat. Or sometimes I'm driving to work, and I get a call from a student who's having trouble that day, and they need a pep talk. So I pull over and I talk them through and help them dive into the Bible for just 5 minutes. Will get them through the rest of the day with whatever doubts, whatever struggles they're dealing with in that moment. And then a lot of times, I spend time talking to parents, helping them with whatever doubts and letting them know that, the doubts that their students are struggling with, they're normal, and we can get through this. And it's not a calling for fear, but instead it's a calling for more love and reaching out and, what that looks like, And so yeah, it changes every day, but it's always amazing.
That's cool. Very cool. Okay. So planning for next year, give us like 2 or 3 things that are coming up in 2021 that you're excited about.
Oh man.
Just like 2 or 3, but you got, because we're already
not
like
enough,
20 minutes.
Yeah. So the first thing is CIY.
Okay, what's
excited.
CIY?
CIY is Christ in Youth. It's our big summer event for middle and high school students, and so those are technically 2 different events, and so that's coming up. Just prepping, making sure we're doing it safe. We're making sure we're doing it right. This year, high school, we're going to be connecting with another church and doing that. So that's a little bit different, and so that's one thing I'm super excited about. Cool. Another thing which we're kind of doing a little bit of this year, which next year it's going to be a focus on just ministry and evangelism, and what ministry and evangelism looks like. Exciting. And so we're going to be doing a lot of, kind of connecting with the community, events and stuff like that.
So like the backpack thing we're doing for 25 Days of Hope, it's kind of like in that same vein. Okay.
Yep. And so really, really pumped up for that. Really pumped up to getting to talk about that and what ministry is day to day, that kind of stuff. And then let's see, our third thing, we're doing so much this upcoming year. Our third,
fingers crossed, no COVID.
Exactly.
We have a vaccine now. No COVID.
Exactly. Our third thing, I'm really pumped and excited for my sponsors. Getting to spend more time with them. We're going to be something we're doing. I guess is a third and fourth thing, but something we're doing differently is we're going to really be diving into and investing in our sponsors and our parents differently. We're going to be doing more parent events, and so I'm really excited for that. We're going to do an open house in the summer where you get to experience what the students experience, and kind of walk you through what we do and what that looks like, and a little bit of back in the scenes. It's going to be an open house, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And then for sponsors, we're going to do a sponsors retreat where we'll do more really talking through if a student has this question, a student has that question, or what has happened, and how can we get better, and that kind of stuff. And so those are, I gave you 4.
You did give me 4. Yeah, it's kind of almost 5.
I can't pick. I guess
because the sponsors you talked about a couple of them. So
yeah,
it's okay. It's all right. I know. I can tell that you're excited. For 2021. I'm ready to turn the page. I'm ready to get into the next year, and I mean, there's so many cool things that are coming up. I'm writing a book right now for our first sermon series. It's on the Book of Revelation. I'm pretty pumped about that. It's gonna be interesting. It's more of kind of like a study Devo guide rather than a book, but I am working on a book. I'm just ready for this next year. I'm pretty pumped about that. Okay, so back to you. Okay, so we talked about why student ministry in general. So I guess one of my questions is, what's been the biggest surprise for you when it comes to, in student ministry and being a pastor, and what's been the biggest surprise that you could say, not ready for this one, kind of caught me off guard? What's that big surprise?
Oh man, that's a really deep but good question.
Yeah.
Let's see. Just the joy that you can find, I guess, in the midst of almost any of these situations. In the midst of the craziness, the midst of the chaos, the midst of, the struggles that students or sponsors or parents can deal with. being involved with that, there are times where there's so much pain, but yet because we know Christ and because of what we've seen him do in the past, there is this overwhelming sense of joy, and like, because we know that regardless of what we're looking at in this moment, it's just demonstrating how big God is, that he will tackle this. He's got this, and so just that, I mean, I know that scripture states that, but to experience that in all of this craziness is just a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. Very cool. Okay, so what's the hardest part about your job?
Hardest
part.
Great question. Right now, I would say not doing everything myself. Not wanting to do everything myself. I have an issue with delegation. I'm trying to get better at delegating, and saying this person is the best person for this job. They've got it. I don't need to worry. They've got it, and so that's the biggest challenge, it's delegating and not trying to do everything myself, finding the right persons and just trusting them to do it.
Yeah. All right. So what's one thing you want for Christmas?
Oh my gosh.
One thing. And not three things, John. Okay, one thing you want for Christmas.
One thing I want for Christmas. Oh man. I don't know. This year it's different because I've been blessed in a lot of ways. This year we had a huge surprise party, so I already got to beat up a whale piñata, which was amazing, and a cat piñata. So yeah. All right. So I'm not sure. One thing I want for Christmas, I don't know. I want to be. I don't know. I've been focusing a lot in playing guitar, so I want to get better at that. And so one thing is, I don't know, maybe invest in an electric guitar.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Okay. Good deal. So electric. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So last question, then I'll let you go because we're up against our 30-minute timeline. We're trying to keep these, right around 30 minutes. So it's in that lunch break point, So we're right there. So all right. So this is a would you rather question.
Okay.
And with a would you rather, and this one is very personal for you because I know there are two things you hate most in life are cats and whales, dolphins, that kind of thing. Okay.
Yes.
Would you rather be swallowed by a whale or clawed to death by a cat?
Oh my gosh.
Which one? Swallowed by a whale, clawed to death by a cat. Which one?
I guess it'd be a cat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a cat. Oh gosh. I was going to say whale because if I got swallowed, but man, I'm pretty sure just the fear would kill me itself.
So is Jonah the worst story in the Bible for you?
Yes.
You hate Jonah?
I don't even see that book in the Bible. I just skip it. It's just not. When we have to talk about it, we have to. There's something that needs to happen beforehand because. Yeah.
So you really go for the cat? You get clawed to death by a cat?
I don't know. At least I'm just thinking I could probably get some punches in the middle of that, and at least get him back.
Okay.
So
right.
A whale, he's just too big. I'm done. Yeah. So I just hate cats, but I'm terrified of whales. So I wouldn't even be able to fight.
A lot of people think I hate cats, and I don't hate cats. I just can't eat a whole one by myself.
Oh my gosh.
So that's, okay, I appreciate it. I'm going to get so many nasty emails about that because some of you I know are cat lovers and you're like, you're just a jerk, I hate you. So that's, if you get some nasty, cat lover emails, just forward them on to Tim.
Oh,
he's at home. He's working from home. He's not feeling good today. So just forward him on to Tim. He can handle all that.
Sounds perfect.
So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for lunch break. It's been a lot of fun. John, thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you for being part of the show today. And I'm excited about you and about your ministry and about all that God's doing in your life. You got a new house too, right?
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Yep.
It's got heat too.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So good deal. I know John's had so much so many problems with that old place of yours.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. God's doing some amazing things. Remember, 25 Days of Hope, we're still participating in that. We'd love to have your help with that. You can go to 25dh.online to sign up. It is not too late to jump in, to grab a shirt, to grab a card, to help some people. Today I'm going to go to one of the fire stations and drop off like
awesome.
3 or 4 cards, because we've had some people with COVID, so they weren't able to deliver their cards. So now I've got some extra cards, which is great. So I'm going to go bless some firefighters in our community. So I'm pretty pumped about that.
Yep.
God's just doing some really cool stuff in the middle of this 25 Days of Hope. So jump online again, 25dh.online. Join us for that. John, thank you.
Yep,
Thank you
of
for
course.
participating.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Love it.
Awesome.